Welcome back. You're watching the 4:20 o'clock English news on Future TV. Many passengers have died as a boat filled with up to 250 migrants heading for Europe sunk off the Libyan coast. A spokesman for the Libyan Navy said only 26 people have been rescued after the boat sunk near Tajura, east of the capital of Tripoli. Streaming out of Libya in boats in rising numbers for years on their way to Europe. So far in 2014, the Italian government said more than 100,000 have reached Italy's shores. Human traffickers are exploiting the political chaos and lack of security that has blighted Libya since Muammar Gaddafi was toppled in an uprising in 2011. Pilots for Air France have kicked off a week-long strike, angry that the airline is shifting jobs and operations to a low-cost carrier to better keep up with competition. Air France is urging passengers around the world to change or postpone travel, estimating that it can only ensure 48% of today's flights. The company's challenges echo those that faced by flagship airlines across Europe, facing tough rivalry from budget airlines and Gulf state carriers. Air France announced a plan last week to transfer much of its European operations and jobs to low-cost carrier Transavia. Sweden's Social Democrats and their center-left allies are poised to return to power after defeating the center-right government in a general election that also resulted in strong gains for the anti-immigration party. With all voting districts tallied by this morning, the Social Democrat-led bloc won 43.7% of the vote, while the ruling center-right coalition led by the moderate party gained 39.3%. But the anti-immigration far-right Sweden Democrats were celebrating large gains as the party won 12.9% of votes cast, more than doubling the 5.7% of votes won in the 2010 election. With no majority reached, a complicated process of forming a government is expected as the center-left pledges not to cooperate with the Swedish Democrats. Hillary Rodham Clinton, making her return to Iowa for the first time since the 2008 presidential campaign, implored Democrats to choose shared economic opportunity over the guardians of gridlock in a high-profile appearance that drove speculation about a possible other White House bid into overdrive. "Hello, Iowa, I am back," Clinton declared as she took the podium at the retiring Senator Tom Harkin's annual Steak Fry fundraiser, a fixture on the political calendar and the home of the nation's first presidential caucus. Clinton joined her husband, former President Bill Clinton, in a tribute to Harkin that brought them before about 10,000 party activists who form the backbone of Iowa's presidential campaigns every 4 years. The former New York Senator and First Lady did not directly address a potential campaign, but she did say she was thinking about it and joked that she was here for the steak. And finally, it didn't take the Ray Rice elevator video to get Kerry Washington, the actress, talking about domestic violence. In fact, it was the day before news outlets across the country began looping images of NFL running back Rice punching out then-fiancée Jenny Palmer that the Scandal actress was filming a public service announcement about a rarely discussed element of domestic abuse. Washington was asked to do the domestic abuse PSA by the Allstate Foundation, which has already put into motion an initiative called Purple Purse to raise awareness of domestic abuse money matters. Washington said the facts and figures they presented were such eye-openers that she immediately agreed to serve as the campaign spokesperson.
So today we've spent the last few hours shooting a public service announcement for the Allstate Foundation Purple Purse campaign. And what we're doing is raising awareness around financial abuse. So I was really shocked to learn that 1 in 4 women will be a victim of domestic violence. And for many, many of those cases, 98% of those cases, the financial abuse is what keeps a woman trapped. So not being able to control your finances, destroying a woman's credit, jeopardizing her job, all of those factors keep women trapped in these unhealthy relationships. So the Allstate Foundation has made a commitment to raise money and awareness around helping women be more financially independent and financially literate so that they can get out of those unhealthy situations. Allstate Foundation Purple Purse makes it easier to recognize, talk about, and stop financial abuse. Help women gain control of their purse strings. Join me at purplepurse.com. You know, I have really good role models. My mom has always been a working mom. Shonda Rhimes is a brilliant working mom. I have really amazing role models and sheroes who have found ways to balance work and home life, and so I am just looking to them and trying to live in the amazing abundance of blessings that I have in my life right now. You know, it's quality problems to have so much good stuff. You know, for me, one of the things I wanted to combine was this idea of elegance and kind of classic traditional design with something kind of funky and fashion forward. So I tried to use this tweed, which is more of a traditional purse handbag element, with the leather and the handle, and so there's a nice combination of kind of uptown, downtown, which is a little bit Carrie.
I'll be trying to get my hand on one of those purple purses. And on that note, I end our bulletin for today. Now for a reminder of the top stories. France urges a global fight against the Islamic State as members of a U.S.-led coalition gather in Paris to discuss how to fight the extremist group. A major power cut hits Lebanon from its south to north, including Beirut, without an immediate explanation for the blackout. And pilots for Air France kick off a week-long strike, angry that the airline is shifting jobs and operations to a low-cost carrier to better keep up with competition. Your Monday headlines live on Future Television in Beirut. I'm Yumna Naufal, wishing you all a good week ahead. Take care.
إن شاء الله كل مسؤول بيرجع لأهله
للتشاور مع كل الأطراف.
كل مسؤول بيرجع لأهله
للتشاور مع كل الأطراف.
Good afternoon on this Monday, September 15th. I'm Yumna Naufal. These are today's top stories. France urges a global fight against the Islamic State as members of a U.S.-led coalition gather in Paris to discuss how to fight the extremist group. A major power cut hits Lebanon from its south to north, including Beirut, without an immediate explanation for the blackout. And pilots for Air France kick off a week-long strike, angry that the airline is shifting jobs and operations to a low-cost carrier to better keep up with competition. Foreign Minister Laurent Fabius says French aircraft will begin reconnaissance flights over Iraq. Fabius spoke ahead of a conference in the French capital of Paris, bringing together some 30 countries to discuss how to fight against the Islamic State militants. During the opening of the conference, French President François Hollande called for a global response to counter the Islamic State group, saying it posed a security threat the world over. French officials say the coalition plan must go beyond military and humanitarian action, arguing there must also be a political plan for once Islamic State has been weakened in Iraq. Iraqi President Fuad Massoum also stressed the urgency of firm action as the beheading of a third Western hostage in the run-up to the conference stepped up the pressure on the international community to destroy the extremist group. Prime Minister Tamam Salam says he was encouraged by his talks with Qatar's emir about the hostage crisis, but noted the Qatari-sponsored negotiations with the militants holding Lebanese soldiers and policemen captive were still in an early stage. Salam said his one-day visit to Doha was designed mainly to seek Qatar's assistance in the hostage crisis and to strengthen brotherly ties between the two countries. He said details about ways to resolve the hostage crisis were left to people tasked with this mission, adding that General Security Chief Magistral General Abbas Ibrahim, who was also part of the delegation, had extended his one-day visit to Doha for further talks with the Qataris. On another note, Salam and UNDP head Helen Clark discussed the United Nations Development Programme's projects in Lebanon. Clark met Salam at the Grand Sarai, where she spoke of UNDP's commitment to continuing and expanding its projects in the country. The threat of ISIS and other radical groups demonstrate the world the necessity of Hezbollah remaining in Syria, according to the deputy head of the party's executive council. Speaking at a ceremony in the southern village of Ait al-Shab, Nabil Kawouk said that Hezbollah and the Amal movement had succeeded in diffusing sectarian tensions following the beheading of soldiers by ISIS last week, which disappointed the radical group. Kawouk said there could never be a war of words between ISIS and them, but there is the field where they will defeat them. They will not engage in war of statements or political disputes, but day after day, he said, it is becoming clear to Lebanon, the Arab, Muslim and international communities that it is a great need for Hezbollah to remain in Syria. A major power cut hit Lebanon from its south to north, including Beirut, without an immediate explanation for the blackout. The state-run national news agency says the power outage hits the Lebanese area in Beirut at 9:20 a.m. this morning. Electricité du Liban and the energy minister failed to explain the reason behind the cut, but MTV reported that the power outage was caused by a malfunction at the Zahrani power plant. EDL Director General Kamil Al-Hayek told reporters that employees are working on fixing the sudden electricity disruption, denying that the malfunction is linked to the contract workers' crisis. EDL later announced that power will return gradually. The Interior Ministry asked security forces to enter the premises of Electricité du Liban after weeks of protests by contract workers had prevented employees from entering the state-run company. Progressive Socialist Party leader MP Walid Jumblat says Lebanon is carrying a major burden in combating terrorism, which should lead to providing it with proper military and logistic support. In his weekly editorial in the PSP-affiliated Al-Anba website, he said the West should not forget Lebanon in its plan to combat terrorism. Led by the United States, the West announced last week the formation of an international coalition which includes Lebanon, aimed at combating the Islamic State jihadist group in Iraq and Syria. Moreover, Jumblat rejected the criticism directed against the Lebanese army, saying it is necessary to support the military institution and back it politically, given the regional threats. Speaker Nabih Berri is reiterating his refusal to extend Parliament's mandate and questions the motives behind the move. Commenting on remarks made by Interior Minister Nuhad Mashnou about extending the Parliament's mandate over security concerns, Berri said the government was responsible for convincing why it cannot hold elections. He pointed out to the situation in Iraq where elections are held despite the violence. He also said the parliamentary elections could end the political freeze gripping the country. Vice head of the Higher Islamic Shia Council, Sheikh Abdul Amin Kabbalan, met with U.S. Ambassador to Lebanon, David Hale, with talks touching on the latest developments in the country and the broader Arab region. Hale has also met with Interior Minister Nuhad Mashnou, with whom he spoke about the current situation in the country and in the Middle East in light of the latest developments in Syria and Iraq. Mashnou later met with MP Al-Aoun, with whom he discussed the current situation in the country amid the presidential vacuum. Coming up next, as we talk about elections 2016, Hillary Clinton makes her return to Iowa for the first time since the 2008 presidential campaign.